What was the name for the Soviets' first nuclear bomb?
Nicely done. Joe 1 is a solid answer.
How many times have nuclear weapons been used in war?
Right choice. 2 is the best answer.
When did the USA get their hands on nuclear weapons?
Bravo. 1949 is the answer.
Who stole the blueprints of America's nuclear bombs?
Valid point. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg is true.
What conflict did the Cuban Missile Crisis occur in?
Perfect. Cold War is the correct choice.
What did the US not like having so close to home?
Correct response. Communism is the most accurate answer.
What war was the nuclear arms race correlated with?
Well done. The Cold War is the right choice.
The dash was a line dividing North and South Korea.
Clear logic. Your choice 38th parallel is sound and 100% true.
What was the power of the Trinity Tests explosion?
Sharp thinking. 19 kilotons of teat is the right choice.
What did MAD stand for in regards to the arms race?
Good thinking. Mutually assured destruction is the right answer.
When was the nuclear arms race officially started?
Exactly. 1949 makes sense and it is right choice.
Who promoted their belief in peaceful coexistence?
You're right. Nikita Khrushchev is the correct answer.
A race to achieve the nuclear weapon superiority?
Well picked. Nuclear arms race is the correct answer.
Which event marked the height of the arms race?
Good job. Your answer. The Cuban Missile Crisis works well here.
Who was the first American to orbit the Earth?
Right again. John Glenn is a valid answer.
What was the largest battle of the Korean War?
Smart move. Battle of Chosin Reservoir is an accurate answer.
Who was the first man to set foot on the moon?
Well reasoned. Neil Armstrong is the correct choice.
The war between the US and the Soviet Union?
On track. Cold War is the correct answer.
What year did the Cuban Missile Crisis occur?
Great thinking. 1962 is the right choice.
What did the US Navy establish around Cuba?
You got it. Your choice, a naval blockade, is right.
The children stood beside the enormous trees.
You chose noun's adjective, and it is correct.
When did the USA test its first atomic bomb?
Smart pick. August 1949 is the correct choice.
What country dropped the first nuclear bomb?
Solid response. The United States is a valid choice.
Who was the first human to walk on the moon?
Nice selection. Neil Armstrong is the correct and valid answer.
The Cuban Missile Crisis was solved through.
Excellent choice. Diplomacy is the right answer.
What was the name of the first H-bomb test?
Correct. Ivy Mike is the right answer.
How long did the Cuban Missile Crisis last?
Excellent. 2 weeks is a brilliant choice.
When did the height of the arms race occur?
Strong choice. 1962 is the right answer.
Who was the new leader of the USA in 1953?
Nice work. You chose Eisenhower and it is correct.
What was the main reason for the Cold War?
Great job. Ideological differences is the accurate answer.
What was the ideological basis of the US?
Perfect. Capitalism is the correct choice.
When did the arms race officially start?
Well done. July 16, 1945 is the right choice.
Where was the Korean peninsula divided?
Nice work. You chose 38th parallel and it is correct.
Who was the US president of the time?
Exactly. John Fitzgerald Kennedy makes sense and it is right choice.
What is the main purpose of TED Talks?
You're right. To share innovative ideas is the correct answer.
This was the largest bomb ever created.
Bravo. Tsar bomb is the answer.
The space race was a part of what war?
Excellent choice. Cold War is the right answer.
What tree is the tallest of the world?
Good job. Your answer, redwood, works well here.
When did the arms race come to an end?
Well picked. 1991 is the correct answer.
When did the Manhattan Project begin?
Excellent. 1942 is a brilliant choice.
What did the Cold War term MAD mean?
You got it? Your choice, mutually assured destruction, is right.
What was the largest nuclear weapon?
Great job. Tsar bomb is the accurate answer. Which leaders signed the INF Treaty? Solid response. Gorbachev and Reagan is a valid choice.
Who was the first person in space?
Sharp thinking. Yuri Turkarin is the right choice.
The nickname for the McCarthy era?
On track. Red Scare is the correct answer.
The threat of Daesh caused tension.
Clear logic. Your choice, Mad, is sound and 100% true.
When was the Hungarian uprising?
Good thinking. 1956 is the right answer.
When was the first nuclear test?
Right choice. July 1945 is.
What year did the arms race end?
Great thinking. End of 1991 is the right choice.
How long did the Cold War last?
Correct. 46 years is the right answer.
The word impress means dash.
Smart move. Influence is an accurate answer.
Who was the first man in space?
Well reasoned. Ride is the correct choice.
What does Sputnik stand for?
Strong choice. Traveler is the right answer.
When did the Korean War end?
You chose 1953 and it is correct.
Time period of the Cold War.
1947-1991 is a solid answer.
The leader of Cuba is Daesh.
Right again. Fidel Castro is a valid answer.
Who built the Berlin Wall?
Valid point. The Soviet Union is true.
Who did not help Hungary?
Smart pick. USA is the correct choice.
What does X-beam stand for?
Correct response. Intercontinental ballistic missile is the most accurate answer. When was the Korean War? Nice selection. 1950-1953 is the correct and valid answer. How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format? Sharp thinking. Contact Narayan Changder is the right choice.